I says Wednesday, Wednesday, new things.
Yay, and we're still here having conversations about the 3 P's of manhood. We've talked about how the 3 P's define masculinity, and also we deep dived into, what was it that we did? Procreation, I think? No, protection, man, the traditional man as a protector. Now we want to go into the traditional man as a procreator. And I want to look at this not in terms of what procreation means, because procreation is just basically reproducing, having babies. And I think that a man's role is beyond just that, even though some people think that's what their primary role is. I think it's more love. I know people argue about this. Shaquille O'Neal, he said that a man's role is to love, to his woman is to love. No, let me start again. A man's role is to protect, provide, and love. He didn't say procreate. So I feel like procreate is pretty much love, because you can't procreate to somebody that you don't love. And then Deco raised, you can.
That can be challenged.
Fair enough. You feel free to muse and challenge. This is my own musing. So Deco talked about compatibility, and I thought it was perfect to talk about the role of a man as a procreator or as a lover, and then, bring in the compatibility aspect, because we seem to have divergent views on the meaning of compatibility and whether it's even important. Deco has very interesting views from wearing his church hat, and Tina has very dissenting views as well, thinking of, what does this mean on a day-to-day basis? And Tola is Tola as usual. So I'll start with Deco. Deco, let's talk about the role of a traditional man as a procreator or as a lover, and what compatibility means for that, or is compatibility actually required?
Okay, so if I'm wearing my church hat, as you call it, it's pretty straightforward for us.
Right.
If you look at it purely biblically, in terms of compatibility, right? So I don't think it plays as big of a role as people think it does. Of course, you have to like somebody and like to be there. But no 2 people are truly compatible. Me and my siblings, born of the same father and mother, are not the same people.
So, but no, hang on. Compatible. Okay.
Go ahead. I'm just HUs. So, as a Christian man, my role is to become more Christ-like, right? Because marriage is a reflection of God's relationship with the church, right? And so when people think about Christ, most times they don't think about Christ from his wrath standpoint. When they think about Christ from love, grace and unconditional love, all these things, which is, so as a man, right, that's how we have
to present and come to the table.
With our wife. Because you get it. And this might be a bit of a shocker to some people. But I say, how do you learn unconditional love? How do you learn forgiveness? How do you learn all of these things that make you more Christ-like?
First of all, when you said, we're not the same, compatibility isn't being the same. Let me tell you, the way I define compatibility is a sense of congruence. And the same Bible talks about, can 2 work together except they agree? And I can only agree with somebody that sort of has similar viewpoints to mine. Not exact same, but similar, so that we can travel in somewhat the same direction. I don't want to be going west and somebody is going north. Like, it's totally, like, we can't come together. And it's not because one person going north is incorrect or not acceptable or is less. It's just, this is their journey. And that's why, for me, compatibility is important. But Tola, you had a point about...
So when we were talking off camera, and it was basically, I was trying to get them to see where they would come. I get his point. You cannot say
you love unconditionally.
Love someone because they are perfect. Not that you both agree, you are both the same, right? But that the person is perfect in terms of how you view the person. The person is easy to love. The person, you don't have to exercise any form of patience. You don't have to exercise any form of restraint. You don't have to exercise any form of, the person just is like they are in your mind.
So isn't that myopic?
I don't know. I'm saying that I agree.
That's why.
I think I agree with what you're saying. Where she was coming from was that, because I think the overarching statement you made was compatibility is not necessary, or sort of like it's overrated. Almost like it's overrated.
And it's not.
And the point she was making is like, yeah, we need to be Christ-like, but then there are the there are things that Christ did not talk about, like which school that the children are going to go to, how many nannies are going to.
On a day-to-day basis.
On a day-to-day basis, the choices, the nature of the choices that you are going to make, someone may be exposed to them or not, but are they likely to move in your direction? Are they likely to see your point of view? Are they likely to have it, be open to conversation with you? Are they likely to even say, okay, maybe not that, are we likely to be able to meet middle ground? Yes, that is where you are now talking about compatibility, where NASA is talking about congruence. If someone is almost always on the other side of the fence,
It's just no meeting.
there is no meeting. You are now not, you are not in a test. You are now in an exam. That is your mind. And you just say, what are we not going to agree on today? And I think that could be a terrible way to view things.
Yeah.
People are different. People come in differently. And I think the point I was making was also that people even evolve in...
Absolutely. So you could meet them.
Exactly. You can meet me at a stage in life. Factors affecting and making me present as a certain type of person. When we get married, marriage is huge journey. It's a huge factor to contribute. Becoming a parent, changing jobs, the type of job I was married to someone that was working in the bank, and in marriage he became an entrepreneur. That was huge. You came from regimented working. We knew what to expect. So we planned our lives around that, our dating and our marrying. And then he now became someone, then he was the employer.
Yeah.
That was completely different. And we both underestimated the different
impact.
We are not two different people. And there are things that we have to have extensive conversation on that probably won't have to think about it like this. It will come up. The issue of compatibility, I think, first of all, there should always be grace and benefit of doubt and understanding, seeing your partner where they are in their journey and trying to come to the table with some kind of discussion. But that is also the test of love.
Yeah.
Coming through the table at all and saying, I want to talk to you and I want us to
Understand and see how we can navigate this.
How we navigate this. And doing it as often as possible. That is the test of love, as opposed to what I believe happens for a lot of people. So you say, Barry,
It's not working.
this thing is not working. What's that thing they say? The main cause on the papers for divorces,
Irreconcilable differences. Let me ask. So Tina, you've heard both views and you're of the opinion that compatibility is important, and I agree with you. I think maybe it's not the only thing that you require, but I think as a base, and you agreed as well, you need it as some base level, something to bring it together, right? So can you just speak more on your thoughts, what your concerns are?
So for me, I understand what Diko is saying in terms of we need to be able to emulate at least one of Christ, and and that's good, and that's a factor as well. But I still don't think compatibility is overrated, because you have to have some sort of complementary views. You have to be able to have a complementary approach to certain things, like your day-to-day decision making, choices, like she said, and those things impact on the quality of your relationship. So if you don't have complementary views and your views are parallel lines, and there's no right or wrong answer. I think I've learned that in relationships. Like, I cannot completely say to you that your views are wrong.
Yeah. So perspective.
Identify childhood traumas, your background, your exposure. Those things have come to bear on your views today. So I have no right to just call you out and say that your views are wrong. However, if we come to the table with similar or complementary views at least, right? It means that there's certain things that we won't even bicker over, like we won't even fight or squabble over certain things.
It minimizes the conflict.
And yes, we can continue to emulate, and try to be Christ-like, and those things are important as well. But it doesn't take away from, we need to be mentally compatible, we need to be
spiritually, absolutely.
We need to be physically,
absolutely.
As well. So I can never say that that's overrated. For me, it's a huge factor.
Well, looking from that point of view, I agree.
Right.
Like I'm looking from a different point of view.
And I hear, yeah. So, Diko, is what you're saying, sorry to interrupt you, is what you're saying, and I started to think about it, like, okay, if my wife has certain preferences about something, and because I'm supposed to be Christ-like, I prefer something totally opposite, because I'm going to be Christ-like, do I die to because that's what Jesus probably, okay, so what will you do?
You now get your point across kindly.
What if she doesn't get it? You will.
Kindly. That's what I'm talking about, right? So it's not just about...
But it's not about
Relating how strongly we can feel about certain things.
Oh, no. I completely understand.
And when it comes to things that we feel strongly about, at that point, and I hate to be the one to admit it, delivery is now the least of your problem. But it has nothing to do with how you got your point across. The fact is,
this is important to me, and I can't.
And in lots of things, growing up, a lot of things have, contributed to form that opinion of, as I see it today. So you're not going to come from nowhere and deliver it kindly and say to me that this is how, for example, we all have, 4 of us here will probably have different attitudes to savings. We'll have different attitudes to raising children. We'll have different attitudes to even religion or being religious or being spiritual. So, and we feel strongly about those things, right? So we need to at least have a complementary approach of views.
Yeah.
So that we don't end up thinking this thing is not working just because we're not compatible.
Yeah.
Right? So that irreconcilable difference,
it's a thing. It's actually, it's a thing because...
I just think, personally, I think that that as an excuse is just people not...
You think you're... No,
I think that there are must believe very many examples in which it is
it's an excuse.
I don't want to call this an excuse. People will feel
they hide behind it.
They're hiding behind it because you are not choosing to grow.
So let me paint a picture. So there's a married couple, and one person thinks that it's important to have once a male child, right? The other party feels like children are children, and we have children, so shouldn't that suffice? But you see, the person that wants the male child has all the reasons for why it's important, and you can't say it's not, you can't dismiss it. And the person that doesn't want the male child also has the reasons that she has, and you can't disqualify the reasons.
Because we have no power.
No power.
There is not of...
Oh, no, hang on.
When you try, you have the power. You think I'm there both for both.
It doesn't. That's what happened. And then, but you see, that's... Yeah.
Tens of years. And so what that means is let's just focus on being Christ-like. Let him deliver it to you in a kind manner and explain to you why you want a male child.
Jesus. Right? Unacceptable. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So you go for it because...
Yeah, Diko, that's the thing. So Diko is saying we don't have to agree, but then how do you resolve that conversation? Because I still want my male child. I don't want the male child. What happens?
Because in that case, we have male child, female child, for example.
So who's going to compromise?
The one that's responsible with the XY chromosome, not the woman.
Yeah, it's just, that's why I'm saying that point.
People don't want to see if they're
not winning us. I feel like maybe there needs to be another one, because the truth, we're talking about how people reason, and we're talking about the truth of the matter. There are things in which a lot of the conversations that we have said require comes to the table. They are within our power and our control. For today, this one
is outside.
It's complete.
Okay.
I disagree, Tola, because I can paint a picture as your partner, right? I can paint a picture of saying that it's in your control. You can try 20 times.
Yes. Which is what happens. People do, yeah. You're not trying. After all, your role was
him to pregnate you. Yeah, so what's stopping us?
My role is a procreator too.
Right with that 20 times.
That's what we're saying. These are the things. So irreconcilable differences is the thing, because there's a woman out there that actually believes that she's going to try 10 times until she gets that man child.
So I think
that.
No, but people hide behind it. I agree. Oh, of course.
Kids for I can't bother.
But as with everything in life, people will use whatever it
is partnered with a woman who thinks that true, let's keep trying.
Yeah,
more than there.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's compatibility. GFE.
Same issue.
Right.
I've got someone I know into a lot of trouble. He had 6 daughters, and he wanted a son.
You're the one that is calling a short one now.
Well,
Exactly.
and he kept pestering. I must have a son.
And she did.
No,
Okay.
You went outside.
he went outside, and they tried.
Okay. Then we got like triplet girls there.
Look at me. So they went to do a test, and they found out the man was sterile, couldn't have any kids. All 6.
So until it made sense to him medically, he couldn't insist. But see, if he could,
All 6 of his daughters were not his. So he ran mad.
ooh, all 6 of the daughters were not his.
He ran absolutely mental. So let's show you this. When you push about this thing, accept God's will. You try to have free kids.
When you say, yeah.
What she come on,
In reality,
But you see, unfortunately,
there are a lot of reasonable people. Yeah. Okay, so saying we're talking about compatibility and we're not, so do we agree that compatibility is important? Because there's an element of compatibility that is important to procreation, which is sexual compatibility. Because procreation is not just go and rest on somebody and then they'll give birth. There's a method, there's a process, there's all sorts. So who wants to go first? Sexual compatibility, how important is it? We only have like 4 minutes.
when it comes to loving in a loving relationship,
Sexual compatibility is important.
compatibility is important because sex is the marriage bed is to be undefiled, and lots of people
Because they don't even call it marriage until you've consummated it. And consummating is sex, right?
and sometimes the proof of the consummation is when if you didn't born, they will tell you. There's so much. I think that I think the point I make is that there's a lot of education and
Absolutely. Slowly. For sure.
happening that men need to have when it comes to. I know that there are men that they talk about it. They are moved purely by who they've seen and watch.
Oh, all the men are that way. That's what you're saying.
No, they are moved by what they've seen. That's level 1.
Right.
Level 2, what she says and what she does and how she moves and who she is. You know, that's level 2, 3, 4, and that can encourage a man to want to have relations with you. And then there's the way the relations, I'm calling it relations. Maybe you can now say that I'm an old person. I'm calling relations. I can't believe what I'm saying. There is a way, I think, that protecting, providing happens when there is sexual
Compatible. Alignments.
Yeah.
Or is this abundance?
No.
Abundance may not be compatible.
Abundance may not. Let us find that to be, because we've heard many. Do you know that? What we've heard, what we typically hear is that men are complaining that they're not having enough sex because the woman is always having it, and she's
You giving it?
how you get what I mean?
Maybe God's giving me a
And like that is so unfortunate because first of all, it's the same way somebody stands up and they say they have to go to work and they feel very nonplussed about it and they don't want to go. It's the same thing. It's the attitude that we have to the doctrine that we have, and it's the doctrine that you have. Why haven't we discussed it? Why are you complaining?
As a little man, just want to do one bad thing.
Why though? That's exactly it.
That's a huge problem.
So every time, see again, it's all about learning, right? It's all about learning.
Yeah.
A lot of us men, we are open to learning. Doesn't matter.
No. I'm men open to learning. Speak for yourself. Lord Diku.
Okay, so I think I came from a place where I thought sexual compatibility is a nice to have, and I have grown into a place where I see it as extremely key. And this is because it's like a language. Do you understand? You're communicating on a different level, and again, if you're not speaking the same language, it's bound to lead to problems because one person is not satisfied, quote unquote, and you're leaving room or gap for vulnerability.
Yeah.
Right. And that vulnerability can present itself in different ways. But is it something that is a must-have? Then I do say yes. However, there's a caveat. I still think that first of all we have to start by being honest with ourselves in terms of how can I even know if I'm sexually compatible with XYZ if I don't even know what you like?
Yeah.
Do you understand?
So can we have honest and open conversations? which is what people can,
You know, it's almost like we're not, and I don't know if it's a cultural thing or how we're raised.
it's a mix of,
It's definitely cultural.
Yeah, but it's almost like you don't want to be open. You don't want to discuss your preference.
yeah.
Why is that?
Let's not be like, where do you go and let you?
Yeah, that's funny. It is. Well, yeah.
No, outside, you're on the road.
We're not allowed to be free to have these conversations, and that's why people keep suffering. So it forms part of the irreconcilable differences, because I can't come and say it's because
Then there has to be a part that from a man's standpoint, you have to listen to what.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah,
I think
which is very hard.
But especially when he likes what he likes. So, for example, if you like one bam, thank you, ma'am style, and the woman doesn't like that. If the woman wants you to put on candles and play music and wants to be serious, you're like, nobody got time for just live in Lagos. From Lagos, so we get.
Yeah, Nepal does not optimize for her. So
Yeah, learning.
have to learn that, because we can't just say, because I like one bam, thank you, man, and you want candles.
So how do we? It's meeting in the middle. I agree.
Just see your partner get dressed to go to work, and you just like, they're also with that. You want to jump in there.
So, but hang on a second.
excuse me.
So it's gonna be.
I know we have only like 2 minutes, but there was this something someone shared with me was so actually no, there's two versions. There's the one where she was complaining to one of these online therapists, Dr. Shola, and she said, oh, my husband, every time I get ready for work in the morning, that's when he wants to have sex, and then rips everything. In fact, rips everything apart. But they can have a conversation.
Men.
Yeah, so you just happen up of the bathroom.
So that means, yeah. No. So someone now tells me that, oh, I know someone that this really happened to, because they had to go to their pastor. So the complaint from the wife was, it's every time I'm getting ready for work, I always get late to work because my husband wants sex in the morning. And then hang on. So the pastor now goes to him and says, but uncle, what's going on exactly? He says, I just love the corporate look. So I'm like, we can make it wear. How about we plan around this? How about
Eat in the night.
So the pastor says to her, sister, perhaps you should wake up earlier. So if you wake up at 5, normally you wake up at 4, get dressed.
How about this question?
Night on the weekend.
Men who like, you like a freak in the, how does that saying go? Like
Freaking lady on the street, and
a freak in the street. So you go and pick a lady. I mean, you have no way of knowing whether she's a freak at the sheets or not.
you have to eat discovery now, discovery mode.
Michelle Obama. So you want Michelle Obama outside, but you want Cardi B.
That's where the connection. Okay, we now have to. I think that at the end of the day, procreation is beyond just making babies. It's about all sorts of compatibilities, from loving the person that you're with and seeing them beyond just the role that they play as a wife. It's also about the compatibility that we don't like to talk about, sexual, as we've now come to discover. The men need to listen more to their women and learn, and not just feel like, it's their entitlement. I just go and I take it, and you, woman, just be there. Let me take my rights. You see the guy that killed his wife because she wasn't giving him sex, and she was apparently sleeping with other people. He killed her.
Killed her husband for the same exact reason.
Is she a man? You see? Oh, really?
I see you. He's got your
Okay.
female.
Whatever.
She's an army. I said to no, that's that way keeping up.
I'm not that. So I want to stand. I will even fight.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, no problem. We will talk more about this. Thank you very much. And that's the end of this conversation. Bye.
We're from
Why are people killing people because of sex? Why are people killing people because of sex?